Y'all may or may not have seen some of the garden harvest videos that we do, and if you have, you probably want to see our entire garden. So today we're going to do a fall garden tour for 2024. So today we're going to start with these zinnias behind me. This is one of two plants that we have. We have a light pink and a dark pink, both volunteered in our garden, and this is our first year growing them. We were given zinnia seeds, but I don't actually know how they ended up down here. So these have been amazing growers. We barely had to do anything with them. And it's something that we're definitely going to grow again next year. Right here in this bed, we have a bunch of cauliflower transplants. These are looking so pretty. I'm so glad that we decided to start them inside a little early. The boys just moved these out less than a week ago, and they've already started acclimating. The one thing that they haven't done yet is these cabbage and Brussels sprout transplants. These are absolutely gorgeous too, and we can't wait to move them in. Here is our second zinnia plant. These are a dark pink. Definitely going to have to get more seeds, even though we've saved seeds from both plants, because we only ended up with two colors, and they're both pink. The other thing we have that you see is absolutely has taken over this bed and actually took over this entire garden space until we started digging some of them up are purple sweet potatoes. And yes, these are purple now that we know for sure since we've actually eaten some. And you can see if you come over here, they have produced tons of these beautiful little blooms. And I've actually enjoyed having them around. It's really given the garden another pop of color. We have some more sweet potatoes over in this bed. And a massive cherry tomato plant that you can tell has not been pruned in a while. Still in its little cage though. We made these earlier this year. I'll leave a link for that video in case you want to see it. They are only $2 and they have worked great this year. They haven't broken yet. They've stayed in the ground even with this huge, heavy, overgrown plant. You can see how massive this blackberry bush has gotten. I believe this is in its third year. And if you were watching our spring garden harvests, you know how many berries we got off of this thing. Now you can see there are some dead canes down there. Those are the berry producers of this year. We're going to pull these out, and all of these new ones that grew this year are going to be the berry producers for next year. We have a red yucca. This is Dad's plant that was gifted to him when we were taking Master Gardener. This thing is extremely sharp. It is important not to touch the tips of the leaves. So far, it has not bloomed yet, but it has been a great addition to the garden. Next to me are our two massive peach trees. Both of these are only in their third year. I am 5 foot tall, so you can see how high these things have gotten since Dad pruned them early this year. He pruned them to about 6 or 7 foot tall, and now they are just massive. So I can't wait to see what these produce for us next year. This little area here, there are 3 garden beds. We had our brassicas in here in early spring. Now it's just sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes have totally taken over a lot of our garden space. And this is full of weeds because this has been totally unattended all summer. But now that I'm looking, it looks like we may have a little volunteer Brussels sprout here. Might have to let that go. Here are, you can probably see 2 of our grape plants here out of 4. These, I believe, are the Candice seedless variety, this one and that one down there. But you can see this one, these are both in their first year. And this one has grown all the way down to here already. It turned at the fence and grew all the way down. I think that's amazing. I can't wait to see what these produce for us in the coming years. Right here is a small little lemon tree. It's sort of been pruned to stay small. This is also as old as the peach tree, so it's about 3 years old, and it could be almost just as big if we had let it get that big. You can see, though, there is some pretty big fruit on here. That should be ready later this year or early next year. And it's in this beautiful pot that Joshua built out of pallets, which I think is incredible. So we got this pot for free versus having to buy an expensive one from a plant store. Right here is one of the Marcus grapes. As you can see, the Candice definitely got a lot bigger, a lot faster versus these little Marcus grapes, although these are still growing very well, also in their first year. So in this garden bed, this is a Veggiega garden bed. First time trying them, absolutely love them. I'll leave a link and a discount code in case you guys want to get your own. We have Swiss chard in here, which by the way is growing beautifully, and lots of different varieties of beans. And here's our last little Marcus grape. Like I said, these didn't seem to get quite as big as the Candices here, but it's only in its first year, and it still looks fairly healthy. When are you gonna learn to stay home? Stop showing up in the garden. This stuff is not for you, sir. Go on, go home, go home. Right here, growing up Joshua's homemade trellis here, a couple of cucumber plants that we planted for a fall harvest. These will continue to grow right up until the first frost. Right here we have our pepper plants. There's a whole bunch of them here. These have been producing pretty well for us. We have gotten some smaller peppers. I think it's because we planted too many varieties too close together. This one has some nice ones on it. And then there's some more over here with some peppers on them. And then right here we have our squash bed. So there's a bunch of different types of squash in here. We even have some cantaloupe vines in here, hoping that we'll get some more off of this before their season is done. Here you can see we have tons and tons of tomatoes that haven't been pruned for a long time. We've got cherry, we got Roma. We do have some beefsteak tomatoes in here, but none of the beefsteak tomatoes have produced at all this year. They did produce some, but animals got to them. You can see right here. Nice little red one coming right off the vine. That looks good. This is the large cherry variety, one of our favorites. Back behind the tomatoes here, we have some dying out cucumber plants. You can see they don't look super hot. That's because they did go through a really hard summer this year. We got tons of cucumbers off of them. I'm not disappointed, and that's also why we planted more for the fall. Here we have about 3 or 4 different orange glow plants. I think there's also a red variety in here too, only because we harvested one and it was red. So I'm thinking that that's not an orange glow plant. You can see that these melons are getting massive. We've been harvesting a good amount of them ever since it started to cool off. This is just one of the marigold plants that we have planted around the garden. We have these mostly planted around like the tomatoes and the peppers to help deter pests. We've been growing these for a few years now, and we love having them in the garden. They're a must-have every year. You can see there's some dead ones here that we can pick off for seeds. Beautiful. Our blueberry bushes took a really hard hit this summer, and while I think that they're going to make it, we have a lot of dead on here. So that's going to probably have to be trimmed off after the winter. I think that they're going to make it because we have some new growth going on down here, but the summer was just really hard on them. Right here we have a red variety of watermelon planted. Right here is Sugar Baby. There's actually one growing right over there. There's about 2 plants here, I think. Another thing that took a really hard hit this year was the apple trees. Now this one actually looks the best because it was planted in partial shade. So this was their first summer, and it's usually the hardest with the apple trees. So this one looks like it's going to make it. Not sure about the other one. We'll have to see. In this bed here, we have our asparagus. This is its first year planted, so we did not harvest any. But this is the Mary Washington variety, and we can't wait to see what we get out of this. Right here are 2 massive elderberry plants. These are only in their 2nd year, and if you've been watching our garden harvest, you know that we got a lot of berries off of both of these this year. Plus you can see there's a couple of small plants over there. I think we have a small plant coming up there. Those are from this year that we planted, so we're probably going to get a ton of elderberries next year. Did you just get a pepper that fell off the plant? Do you want to try it? Go ahead, try it. This Asian pear tree is in its 2nd year, so this is its 2nd summer here. And I have to say, after getting it through that first summer, this was so easy this summer. It barely needed any water, and you can see it looks beautiful and it's full of growth. So this bed here has, it's a little bit weedy, but this is where we've planted some turnips, some beets, radishes, some fun fall crops that we tried this spring and did amazing with. And so many people have told me to try these crops in fall because they do so much better and they're so much easier to grow. So I can't wait to see how that turns out. We're still working on that pepper. Right here are 4 Swiss chard plants that have survived since this spring. And I have to let you know that this area was only meant to be, we only planted spring crops here. So this has been unattended all summer because we weren't planning on keeping it all summer. And these Swiss chard have just thrived. Actually, I think there's 5 plants here because this is its own plant and that's its own plant. So 5 plants here that we've been harvesting from all summer. I can't believe it. This is the Fort Hook Giant variety. Highly recommend. I already planted more for the fall. So this knockout rose bush has been in this house since way before we moved in. It was huge when we moved in. We try and keep it trimmed down somewhat, but that doesn't normally happen. And it has lots of dead blooms on it right now, but this thing blooms all the way from spring until our first frost, which is absolutely amazing. Love having it out front. It's so beautiful. This is the double red knockout. Right here we have turmeric. This is something new we're trying this year, and so far it seems to be working out pretty well. We have a few beautiful plants here. The plan with these, while we could, since we planted them in very early spring, harvest them when they start to die back, I think our plan is we're going to try and cover them and let them grow through the winter so that we can do what they do in hotter zones and make them a perennial and just harvest from the outsides. And this is ginger. If you all seen last year's video, then you know we had a nice ginger harvest. We took some of those roots that we harvested from last year, replanted them. As you can see, it's working out really nicely for us. We have lots of beautiful shoots here. Some of them are getting pretty tall. Can't wait to see what kind of harvest we get. Right here is a basil plant. We have not been harvesting this a lot in our harvest videos just because we've only really had enough to harvest when we want to cook with it. We have harvested some to put away, but not a lot. So this has been great. We grew this by seed. It was our first year trying it by seed, and I'm happy with the results. I'm just glad that we had enough to cook with. Right here are two plants that were gifted to us in early spring. This is called tansy, and while I'm not quite sure what we're going to use it for yet, we've been sort of just harvesting it and drying it and putting it away until we figure out what it can be used for. So if you have any ideas of what it can be used for, or you grow it and you do use it, let us know in the comments below. This comfrey is only in its second year. We got one little root cutting from the master gardeners, and now it has just taken off. It's growing like crazy. We have so much dried comfrey put away, I don't even know what we're going to do with it all. Normally we make herbal salves out of comfrey, but we have way too much for that. So again, if you have any ideas of how you can use comfrey, let us know in the comments below. Right here is a massive bergamot plant. If you've been keeping up with our harvesting, you know that we did a massive cutting back of this year. And while it hasn't flowered yet, it's in its second year. It has had some beautiful foliage that we have used for teas, top on our pizzas. So we've had a great time using this. Echinacea is also in its second year. It is looking a little sad after the summer, but it's fine. It's been producing tons of flowers for us. That's why you see all these cuts up here from all the flowers that we've gotten. We've been putting those away to use in tinctures and teas for the flu season. Right here is oregano and peppermint. Again, if you've been keeping up, you know we've harvested tons of this. We have tons of it put away. Can't wait to use it over the winter. We haven't had to buy any oregano this year or peppermint, so that's been awesome. And we've been able to have as much peppermint tea as we want. We've been able to top whatever we want and more with oregano. So I hope you enjoyed this garden tour. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you have any questions about the plants, let us know in the comments below. And if you have any suggestions for any plants that we should try next year, also let us know in the comments below. Let us know what growing zone you're in, because I'm curious to know. And make sure you give this video a thumbs up, share it out with any other gardeners that you know, and subscribe. You enjoying that pepper? Oh no, did you get it? Did you get a bad bite? You don't like it? No.